In this tutorial, I'm going to set up a scenario where a player has to push 3 buttons in the right order to make a door open. A couple people have asked for this type of puzzle. It's a little tricky, but not undoable, or not. We can certainly do it. So let's just take a look at what we've got here. I've got a lab. And then on the next to the door is going to be a panel, and then there'll be 3 buttons on the panel: red, blue, and yellow. And then there's a metal door between the lab and the sample storage area. So what I'm trying to do is unlock the door to the sample storage area. All right, so now if I run this, it says this is a brightly lit laboratory. Let's fix that description. Laboratory. It's a brightly lit laboratory. To the east is a door which appears to be activated by 3 buttons on a panel next to it. There's a blue button, a red button, and a yellow button. Okay, so now you can see that I've added 3 objects here. One called panel, and red button. And then what about the other buttons? Let's see. Did I make them scenery? Blue button. The blue button's off screen. So let's all of these things, anything that the player's going to interact with, to get past this door, we're going to put it in the lab. So let's try this again. So now, when I run this, okay, there's our panel, our red button, our blue button, and our yellow button, and our metal door. Now, I don't really want to see all these objects listed out because I mentioned them right here. They're kind of scenery. The player can't take these buttons and walk around with them. They're just, because the room is saying that they're there, I can take I will try to interact with those objects. So these things need to be separate objects. There should be a panel, a blue button, a red button, and a yellow button, and you can see that I've added them. But because the room says that they're there, I don't need to see them a second time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make all of that stuff scenery. 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 And the metal door doesn't need to be scenery. Maybe it does. All right. So now notice we're not seeing those objects explicitly listed because they're scenery. But I could say press button. It says I don't know which one you mean. Oh, because there's a red button, a blue button, and a yellow button. Press yellow. But you can see that, and I can examine the panel. Examine the panel. You notice nothing unexpected. Maybe for the panel, I'll say the panel contains 3 buttons, which is to the, which is next to the steel door, has 3 buttons in it. There we go. All right, so now I can examine the panel. There we go. Has 3. All right, there's typo, but okay. But so the panel is there and the buttons are there. Let me fix that little spelling mistake. So I have my environment set up. Like I have this lab. In the lab is a panel. The panel and mentions that it has 3 buttons, but the buttons really aren't on the panel. They're just kind of in the room. But because we describe them as being on the panel, then that's fine. There's a weird kind of artifact of the way Lantern works. If you make something scenery and then you put objects in it, they become invisible. Scenery is invisible, so if you put stuff in a scenery object, it becomes invisible. So if you have a desk and you've made it invisible and you put something on the desk, you won't see it because you've put it inside an invisible object. So don't put stuff inside scenery objects. All right, now what we're going to do, now we've got everything we need, at least in our room. Let's go add some variables here. I'm going to add one called like press number. And I'm going to set it to 0. So this is going to keep track of which press this is. Is this the first time the player's pressed a button? Is this the second time the player's pressed a button? Is this the third time the player's pressed a button? Every time the player presses a button, I am going to add 1 to this. So let's add that number. And then let's add some other variables here. First, press correct. Second press, correct. Third press, correct. So what I'm going to do now, I know which button I'm trying, which press number this is. This is the first, second, or third press, and I'm going to keep track of whether the player pressed those buttons correctly in the correct order. So again, variables, we need them to keep track of the state of our game. So again, press number is keeping track of, is this the first, second, or third press? And then we're going to have a variable that says, is the first press correct, is the second press correct, and was the third press correct? If all those presses are correct, we'll unlock the door. All right, so let's make a function called press button. And click add. So now we got to think about what we're going to do. Let's write in here what the player needs to do. The player needs to press, blue, red, yellow for the door to open. And metal door to open. All right. So what we want to do now is figure out which button presses this. If there was a press number, what do we call that thing? Press number. Yes, let's go back to that function. If press number is equal to 0, this is the first button press. All right, so if the player presses the blue button, this is the first button press. If this is the player presses the blue button, that is correct. Otherwise, it's incorrect. So what we can do is say, what is the name of the, or what is the object that the player actually pressed? And that is, we can access that using noun1. There are other ways to do this, but this is probably the easiest. Noun1 refers to the first object in the sentence. If I type push yellow button is the noun. If noun1 is equal to the blue button, I have pressed correctly. So what I'm going to do is say that the first press correct is 1. Let's go check those variable names again. First press correct, yep. All right, so let's go back here. So the first press correct was 1. Otherwise, the first press was incorrect. And what I'll do is, why don't I put in here, why don't I do PR tab, the button flashes. All right. Now I'm going to say, okay, is this the first press? Okay. Are they trying to press the blue button? If they did, well, then the first guess was correct. The first press was correct. Otherwise, it wasn't correct. All right. Now let's move on to the second button press. And this is going to be else if. Now, what do we want to do here? You know what, also, maybe we don't want to do this here. Well, yeah, let's do this here. Our press number, let's add 1 to our press number. Press number. Plus, plus. Add 1 to press number. Okay. Otherwise, and we can just copy all this, right? We'll say, otherwise, if this is the second button press. If the noun1, now what's the thing they have to press? The red button. If they push the red button, then the second press was correct. Otherwise, the second press was not correct. So 1 is going to mean correct, 0 is going to mean incorrect. And then we add 1 to the press number. And then let's copy and paste all that for our third press. Else, if the press number is 2, what did they have to press? Yellow. All right, so if the noun was the yellow button, then the third press was correct. Otherwise, the third press was incorrect. All right. Now, what we want to do, check if if 3 presses have happened. All right, so let's just let's stop here and just test out that this works, and let's watch our variables. Let's test that this code works and check for any syntax errors. That's what I like to do. Write a little bit of code, test a little bit of code. So let me make a sentence here for push or press. When I call push the red button, I want to call my press button function add. When I call the press blue button, I want to call my press button function. When I press the red button, I want to call the press button function. Oops. Red, blue, and yellow. There we go. So I should be able to start pressing buttons. All right, let me type VARS, and you can see that press number is 0, and all of our presses are set to 0. So watch what happens. Press yellow. The button flashes. I think I spelled flashes wrong. Flashes, yes. And then, but let's look at our variables. I'm going to type VARS to dump out our variables. First press correct is set to 0. I think I pressed the wrong thing. What am I supposed to press? Let's try this again. Let's go up here and... So now I've got my guide right here. So I'm supposed to press blue button. Okay. Now if I type VARS, notice the press number is now 1, and I pressed the first button correctly. What if I press... So now the second time I run this function, the second time I push a button, press number is going to be 1. So we're going to say, hang on, is the noun 1 the red button? Okay. If it was, then the second press was correct. Press red. The button flashes. Notice, second press correct is set to 1. And our press number is 2. So the next time we press a button, we're going to do that last chunk of code. Press, yellow. The button flashes. All right, so press number is now 3, and notice that all of our variables are set to 1. So now we can say if first press correct is 1, and second press correct is 1, and third press correct is 1, and the press number is 3, now we're going to open the door. So let's go write that code. If press number is 3, now the player has pushed... Actually, and we could put this, we could actually have done this code in here because this is when the third button is being pressed. But we could we could also do it here. If the press number is 3, now I'm going to check. Let me give myself else. Oops. Why did I do that? Okay, put me way back up there. What I want to do is say if the first press correct, let me go grab these. First press correct is equal to 1. And double equals, because I'm testing for equality. Inside of these parentheses, you'll always have a double equal sign if you're testing to see if two things are equal. And second press correct is equal to 1. And third press correct is equal to 1. I got to make those double equals. Double equals means test for equality. Well, now the door opens. Print. The metal door slides open. So then what I'll do is metal door dot open equals 1. And what do I want to do now? I probably want to set press number back to 0. Oh, you know what? Actually, let's otherwise print the lights all flash red. Right, so once we've pressed the buttons 3 times, we're going to say, hey, did we press them all correctly? If we did, print the metal door slides open, and then actually set the metal door to be open. Maybe we want to set it to be unlocked also. I don't know. We could try that. Metal door dot locked equals 0. Not sure it's going to matter. And otherwise the lights all flash red. Now what we want to do, let's set all our variables back to 0. This is a fair amount of code. So let's save that. I know that's a fair amount of code. So this is broken up into 2 chunks. The first chunk is keeping track of what button presses this, and then did the player press the right button, and then incrementing our variable to say that we've gone to the next button press. Finally, once the player has pressed the buttons 3 times, we're going to say, hey, did they press them all correctly? If they did, we'll print the metal door slides open, and then otherwise the lights all flash red, and then we're going to reset our variables. All right, so let's save this and just test it out. If I try to go east, it says, oh, wait, why could I go east? Let's look at my door. Metal door. It's a door. It sure is a door. Oh, it says it's open. Okay. And is the storage area lit? No, it's not. All right, let's test this out. Okay, so the metal door is closed. Okay, so what did I have to push? I forgot. Blue, red, yellow. Push blue. Push red. Push yellow. The metal door slides open. Cool. Now I can go into the sample storage area. All right. See, all our stuff got set to 0. All right, now let's try that again. Push blue. Push blue. Push blue. The button flashes. The lights all flash red, right? So what happened was we didn't enter the sequence correctly. And then notice here, all of our variables got set back to 0, so we can try again. So I should be able to make a second try here. And let's say push blue, push red, push yellow. The metal door slides open. All right, so that's cool. That works. Now, we probably want to also do a check in here about if the door is already open. Why did it do that? I think I'm missing a parenthesis. If the metal door is open, or if the metal door is not open, right? So if its open bit is set to 0, let's print the door's already open. All right, cool. All right, let's try that. So that was blue, red, yellow. Push blue, push red, push yellow. Metal door slides open, push blue, push red, push yellow. Door's already open. Okay, cool. All right, so that's cool. What if we just, so that works. Let's try to run this again. And what if I try to open the door? Done. Okay, so we need to stop that from happening. So let's say, let's add a function called open door, or open metal door. And all we'll do here is say print line, the door is controlled by 3 buttons on a panel next to it. All right, and then we'll say, okay, so when I try to open the metal door, call my open metal door function instead. Open the door. The door is controlled by 3 buttons on a panel next to it. How about unlock the door? I don't follow you. Okay. But we could also, so that's fine. It's not really lockable. But so there we go. The trick is we need some variables. We need a variable to store which button press is this. We need a variable to store whether each press was correct. And we need a function that we're going to use when the player pushes the buttons. This is going to test which button press this is and whether the player has pressed the correct button by using noun 1. Noun 1 can be used to refer to the first object in the sentence. Noun 2 is the second object in the sentence. If this player typed 1 in, right? So we're going to just, every time the player presses a button, we're going to say, hey, what press is this? Did they push the right button? And if they did, set the correct variable to the appropriate value, and every time we're going to add 1 to our counter. Finally, we've got the second chunk of code that says, hey, if we push the button 3 times, did we press all of them correctly? If so, now we're going to open the door if it's not already open. And if the player did not guess correctly, then we don't do this code. We do the else code, which just prints the lights off flash red. And then either way, whether they guessed incorrectly or correctly, they're going to reset their, we're going to reset our variables so the player can try again. But there you go. There's an example of how to set up a puzzle where the player has to push things in the right order. Somewhere in your game, you should have some sort of indicator what that sequence actually is. The problem with these sort of puzzles is that you can actually, you can brute force them. There's 3 by 3 by 3 ways to solve it. So eventually the player could just brute force it, but maybe you've got a technician or something, and you search him and you find a key card, and on the key card, the back of the key card is a sticker with those colors on it or something, or maybe he's got you find some indicator somewhere as to what that color combination is. So there you go. It's not the most elegant thing in the world, but it certainly can be done. And now you know how to do it. So if you have problems getting a mechanic like this to work, let me know. I can probably find a way to make it work for you.